Cool. Robbie, welcome.
Hi, how's it going, Matt?
Robbie Ylagan. Is that
Mm-hmm.
correct?
Yep,
Okay,
that's correct.
awesome, awesome. Got it right. I got it right. Thanks for jumping on with me, man. I've been interviewing a bunch of people over the last couple of months,
Mm-hmm.
on different campaigns, different parts of their training program. But I
Yeah.
always start every single chat by let's talk about your background. Let's talk about, your history before coming into the business. Obviously, you don't have to go back as far as kindergarten or something like that. But
Sure.
tell us all about the man behind the story.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, I appreciate you having me on first and foremost. Yeah, so I'm originally from New York City. I was born and raised out there, but I did go to high school out here in San Antonio, Texas, which is where I currently run my office and everything. And so after high school and everything, back up to New York City. I graduated from a college out there called Fordham University. I graduated from the Rose Hill campus, which is located like smack dab in the middle of the Bronx, which was pretty awesome. It was pretty cool,
Okay.
very diverse little area and everything. And I actually had my degree in law. So I got my degree within psychology and law, which is kind of like a dual major and everything. For my entire 4 years, I was kind of studying to be a lawyer. I was just literally looking to I was originally kind of looking to get into, I don't know if you've ever seen Criminal Minds, right? But
Love
the
it.
whole,
Love it. One
yeah,
of my
I love
favorites.
Criminal Minds, right? But I was originally going to go into that, something like in that sort of realm where it's like working for the FBI's behavioral analysis unit and everything, things like that. Long story short, it just didn't really pan out as well because there was a lot of, um, I guess, years that had to be put in, like working in the FBI, if you even wanted to be considered to be a part of like the behavioral analysis unit. So I basically kind of nixed that dream and everything and just decided to just do corporate law. This is kind of the easiest route that I wanted to go into and everything since I was already getting a degree in law. So I did psychology and law and everything, and that's kind of what I majored in, did my entire 4 years in that. Graduated college and everything, and then started to go into my actual law school and everything. And then after my first year of law, that's kind of when my degree. So when I was majoring in my degree and everything, I actually was interning for a lot of different corporate law firms across New York City, which was pretty awesome and everything, obviously. And I had a really good privilege. My parents had really good connections and everything out there. So I always had like an internship in law every semester, every summer, and everything. So just worked in that field. So kind of after my first year of law school, I was really kind of looking to just diversify my resume, if I'm being honest with you. I was like, it just says legal intern, legal intern, legal intern, legal intern. It was like the same thing over and over and over again. So I was like, okay, let me, I guess, like zhuzh it up a little bit, right? And I was like, let me find some type of like business internship, marketing and sales internship, just something of the sort. So I actually, when I came back to San Antonio, I was staying with my family for the summer. I applied for a ton of different like marketing and sales internships here in San Antonio, and that's kind of when I came across the business. I actually entered in originally as an intern just for the summer, so I was actually going to go back in the fall to law school and everything.
Yeah.
And did the program. I even told my manager I was like, "Hey, I'm only gonna be here for 3.5 months roughly and everything," because he was talking about getting to management, he was talking about growing, and I was like, "That's really great and all. I just really want the skills. I really want it for my resume, right?" So I started in the business as an intern and everything, and obviously, started doing the sales and marketing side of things. Went to the field, worked really hard, and then got promoted into leadership. I started to, grow a team. I started to do like recruit on behalf of the company. I started to do trainings and things like that and everything. And I actually started to kind of grow a team there. And plus the environment was just a ton of fun. Yeah, I always say that like what gets people to stick around is really the people that you surround yourself with and everything. And I just really enjoyed the people that I was surrounding myself with in the office. So fast forward a little bit towards the end of the summer, my internship was technically coming to an end, and I was just really thinking to myself, what am I gonna do? Because I'm really enjoying my time here. I'm really enjoying the growth, the opportunity that I've kind of given myself and everything. And I also just really enjoyed how much I've developed and grown as an individual and as a worker and everything in the 3 months that I was already there, right? So I was kind of debating. I was like, okay, do I continue this route and everything and continue enjoying my growth and my time and everything, or do I go back to law school? Right. And the reason why that was a big decision for me was because law obviously is a big, I mean, obviously I graduated with my undergrad. Now I'm in law school and everything. And that was kind of the route that I was always quote unquote destined for, if that makes sense. But I say that in quotations just because I love my family. My family is like my heart and my soul and everything. And I love my parents and everything they provided for me. Like basically to sum it all up, my parents, well, I come from a pretty privileged family, right? I grew up very well off and everything. I grew up in a very like never struggling basically. But even though I grew up very financially well off, in my opinion, I didn't grow up with a lot of freedom. Every decision that was for my future was always kind of made by my parents, if that makes sense, right? And again, that's not knocking them. I absolutely love them and adore them and everything, and I love everything they've given me. But my parents are, traditional Asian parents and everything. They told me, "Hey, do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to be an accountant, or do you want to be a lawyer?" Right? And I was like, I don't like blood and I don't like needles, so I probably wouldn't be a very good surgeon. I like money, but I don't like counting other people's money. And so I was like, okay, I can argue and I can talk a lot, right? So let's go into the law field. And that's kind of how I ended up going to into law for undergrad and then law school for my graduate, obviously, right? So that's kind of where I was at an impasse when I finished the internship. I was like, do I continue to do something that was never my choice to begin with? There was always a decision that my parents made for me, or should I make a decision for myself and take a risk and take a leap, right? And obviously, I ended up taking a leap and I took a risk. I always told myself law school will always be there if I never ever needed to go back, right?
Yeah.
So I ended up dropping out of law school and I ended up doing this full time, right? Moved out to Austin right after I did that. Moved out to Austin with my promoting owner to expand with him and everything. And out in Austin, Texas is where I got promoted and where I hit the criteria and everything. And then eventually I got the opportunity to move back to San Antonio, be closer to family and everything. And I've been running my office out here for the last like 3 years now, almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years in 3 days, actually.
Damn, congratulations.
Yeah.
Three
Thank
days
you.
three.
Yep, exactly.
It's funny you say that, again, I started in this business just to make a little bit of cash. I wasn't working at
Hmm.
the time. It was never like this is a long-term career. It was,
Right.
but the environment kept me, the people kept me, and the
Yeah.
opportunity eventually got me as well. It was like I could
Hmm.
actually see myself doing something here and growing, and obviously very money motivated as well.
Of
But
course.
the way that I looked at it was I think when I agreed and it was like my back door was closed and I was here and I was locked in, I said, you
Yeah.
know what? I'll do this for the next 5 years. Worst case scenario is I'll save 100 grand a year for the next 5 years, save half.
Hmm.
That was a lot of money back in the day. Like
Right.
100,000 pounds was a lot. I'll save like half a million, and then if I don't want to do it, I'll go back into architecture or I'll do something else.
Right.
And I think so many people are so locked into, it's this or that. Well,
Hmm.
you just got to live in the moment and go for what you got to go for right now and see where it takes you. And if you do that, it can take you to places you probably
Yeah.
didn't assume you'd be.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
you said something to me a few months ago. We were just chatting about, like, obviously your office was whooping my ass at the time, still is, but and we were just talking about growing different legs and leaders in your business, and
Definitely.
you just said something, and it literally made me double check myself. I was like, What?" And you was like, to me, I've always said, you get promoted with four legs, you grow
Hmm.
to six, and for me, I'm like, you maintain six strong legs, and out of
Hmm.
that, you've got two or three people that are building crews. And you were
Yeah.
like, no, 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 I have 10 at all times. And I'm like, how? Like that's insane to maintain that and keep that. Well, like the fact your standards are so much higher than so many other people. I've been installing that to all my managers now, just so you know, you got to get
Yeah.
10 legs, you got to get 10 legs. Because if you have 10, at least three or four of them are going to be building. If you only
Yeah.
have five or six, only one or two are going to be building. Like,
Yeah. Definitely.
what's your take on that? Like, what made you like not just increase the standards, but what was your take on
Mhm.
that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's really two things, I guess, two reasons of why I kind of like for me having 10 direct first gens is like a non-negotiable. It's because number one, it's the heartbeat of growth, right? If you have a table, let's say for example, if I have four legs on a table, it's pretty sturdy. But the more legs that you take off, it's gonna start wobbling a little bit, right? So you can either have, so my mindset behind that was I
Oh,
can have, what was it?
so smart, so smart. That analogy is such a
Yeah.
good analogy.
Yeah, so as you kind of take off those legs and everything, it's gonna start get wobbly and everything. So my mindset is, okay, great. A four-legged table is really strong. Now, what if I had 10 legs under that? It'd be even a sturdier table. So no matter how many legs that you take off, I still have nine legs, still really sturdy. 8 legs, still really sturdy. So it's kind of like no matter how many legs that I have under the table, if I have 10, it's always going to be a really solid table. It's never going to fall, right? At
Yeah.
least that's the hope and everything, right? So really, it's just kind of the heartbeat and the foundation of growth. It's really having that solid foundation for yourself, right? Now, the second reason of why I kind of have this philosophy as like a non-negotiable and everything, it's really because of duplication, right? If I don't hold myself to that level that I'm able to have this many versions, I'm able to replicate myself this many times, I'm able to train and develop individuals, this many individuals around me, then how can I expect my leaders to do the same, right? How can I continue the growth? So what that does is when I have that mindset of I need to have 10 first generation individuals or 10 individuals that I'm training directly myself, it forces me to constantly recruit, develop, lead from the front. It keeps the culture around me really sharp. So therefore, the standards that I'm presenting, it's nobody can really question it because I'm doing it, right? So no
Yeah.
one can really if I'm calling somebody out for not doing X, Y, and Z, right? They can't really fight me on it because I also have that type of mindset already. I already have the foundations and because I'm doing it as well. So it just keeps the culture really sharp around me and everything. It's also just a daily reminder that growth only happens if you refuse to get uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
So, people always say that like, no matter how much how many people that you have and everything, it's always good to constantly to grow and develop other people. And it's good to develop diverse amounts of people. Because if I only train people that were just like me, for example, right, then I would probably wouldn't have
That
a
would
very
be a pretty good business. That'd be a pretty good
I
business.
think it
Maybe
would
you
be a
should do
great
that.
business
Maybe you should
too.
do that.
But we always say that there's only one of you, right? So there's only one Robbie, there's no other people. So I needed to like, keep my mind sharp and keep myself uncomfortable by training different types of people. So that's kind of why I keep a strong 10 first gens around me and everything. Because again, it's the heartbeat of it's the foundation of a business, it's foundation for growth, but also it's just the standard of duplication. If I'm expecting my team and expecting the people that I'm working with to do the same thing as me, I have to show them first and foremost.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think when you combine that with, you know, I've met so many members of your team, like reps, owners. Your team always seems to be such in sync with each other. I think building
Mhm.
relationships is key to success in our industry. What's your take on that?
Yeah, relationships is everything. I think we have to remember that we're in a people business, right? And I think a lot of people misconstrue that, where it's like when we say it's a people business, oh, you have to be super extroverted or introverted or extroverted in order to do the business. I think that's very wrong because extroverted, introvert is just how you recharge as an individual.
Mm,
But you have to be a people person where you have to be able to understand and you have to enjoy people. You have to be able to relate to people and things like that. Because people don't just like, we're in a sales and marketing industry, right? So we're marketing different companies, different clients and everything. We're marketing different products, right? People don't just buy into the product, they buy into you, right? And they buy into the culture that you create. So anybody that we bring into our business, even just as a team member, as a representative and everything, right? Like they have to buy into you. They have to buy into the culture first before they can see themselves long term, before can see themselves grow, which, ultimately that was the reason that why I stayed, right? Because like I said, I was just an intern and everything, but because I enjoyed and I loved the environment around me and everything, I ended up staying, right? And I live by this quote, and I talk about this time kind of like all the time with my team and with other teams. And when people ask me, it's that nobody cares how much you know until you show them how much you care, right? So if
yeah.
I treat people like numbers, 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 oh, go out there, do this for me. This is, I just need more heads on my team. Then guess what? People are gonna end up leaving. People are not gonna wanna support you and respect you and everything, right? But if I show up and I show people, that I'm here for your goals. I care for you. I care about your development. I care if you're upset, if you feel like you're stuck and everything. The good, the bad, the ugly. I care, right? And if you show them that and prioritize an individual and everything, that builds a lot of trust, communication. It builds a lot of growth within a team and everything, right? And so, like I said, I don't just train people, I invest in them, right? And we talk about investing in people, like invest. When we say invest, people think money, right? But in my opinion, it's not just about how much you spend on people or how much you give to people monetarily, things like that. It's about how much time that you invest in them, right? No matter what it is, even if they don't end up staying long term and everything, my job is to invest in you as much as possible. So when your people know that you care about their future as much as your own, the loyalty and the synergy that you have there is really unmatched, if I'm in my opinion.
Absolutely, absolutely. People lock onto that as well, and they want to be a part of that, and they want to grow with that. And I think that's how you go from a team to a
Yeah,
company to an organization. And
yeah.
I think you're going to have a huge year. 2025 and 2026 is going to be
Thank
massive.
you.
Yeah. Not that they've not been massive already.
Right.
Let's talk about the last 12 to 18 months specifically. You know, you've been dominating the Spectrum campaign. I think your business, I don't know the exact figure myself, but it's in excess of over $2 million in gross revenue. What a year. You know, 2025 is just as good as 2024. What do you think are maybe the key things that you did differently compared to maybe 2, 3 years ago that have started to really click for you?
Yeah, I think for me, I think the thing that separates, at least what I would say would separate my team and everything was discipline, but specifically discipline in the small things, right? Because, and let me define what discipline is in my opinion. Discipline is doing the things that you don't want to do, but you do it anyways, right? And I think a lot of people, they try to play themselves on motivation where it's like, oh, how do you stay motivated? How do you keep going? How do you stay motivated to keep going and vice versa, right? And motivation's fleeting. It's like a feeling, right? So motivation will always be fleeting, but discipline is always there, right? So if you take it like, for example, like going to the gym, right? Going to the gym it's a difficult thing to do for some people. It's difficult to start, and it's difficult to stay consistent, right? And even though I go to the gym pretty much every single morning, right? I mean, I'll have like rest days in between, obviously, but I typically go to the gym every single morning, and I wake up every single morning at 5:30 to be at the gym by 6 o'clock, right? 6 a.m., right? And there are a lot of days where I wake up and I'm like, I don't want to go, right? But what gets me going and what gets me up and keeps pushing me to go to the gym is the discipline behind it. Because what discipline is again, it's doing the things that you don't want to do, but you do it anyways because it makes tomorrow easier, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of my mindset. Like if you look at myself 2, 3 years ago, I feel like I lacked a lot of discipline in terms of planning, lacked a lot of discipline in terms of even just my own habits, coming in on time and, just doing all the small things right, right? And then fast forward to this year and everything in the last year, I think that what really set me apart now is just I'm just disciplined in everything that I do. So even though I don't want to do it, I'm gonna do it anyways because again, it's gonna make tomorrow, it's gonna make next week, it's gonna make next month, next year a lot easier for me, right? So we have like a lot of prepping a lot of the small things, whether that be my daily plans in terms of recruitment, whether that be the trainings that we're going to give to our team and our people and everything, and then just building leaders, being able to develop a mindset around people rather than just salespeople, right? Because again, that's the short term, but the long term is to build entrepreneurs, to build leaders in our industry and everything, right? So again, many people they kind of focus only in the short term wins, but I've always played like the long-term leadership game, right? So it's like we look for the instant gratification, but instead people need to look at the delayed gratification. You may not see the results right away, like just like working out. If I go to the gym twice in a week and everything, probably not going to see the six-pack abs that I want and everything, right? So I'm going to have the discipline to keep going because those stacked up smaller wins, right, is what's going to develop the muscle, right? I think so. I basically think that discipline is just like a muscle. You need to exercise it constantly.
You kind of touched on it there. I was going to lead on. What do you think makes a good leader, apart from discipline? What makes
Yeah.
a top entrepreneur and a top leader?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it a little bit earlier too, just about like number one is just like the relationship that you build with people. I
Yep.
think not even just in terms of the team that you're around, like the crew that you're growing and everything, but it's also your network. Your network really is your net worth and everything. So being able to have a really strong relationships with other strong players in the industry, whether that be consultants, whether it be top managers and vice versa, just letting your ego go, right? And so not if you're not in the good standing of where you want to be at and everything, go find the person that is and build a relationship with them, and then take what they're doing and then just replicate it even better, right? So I think just having that relationship build, that being able to build relationship with people and just being a people person, and then I think the other thing that just makes a really strong person is just someone that's able to duplicate their standards, right? So if you're able to replicate and duplicate what you're able, like your own kind of standards every single day, then I think that's what makes a strong entrepreneur because entrepreneurship is not about like, I win, I win, I win, I win. It's about let's do it together. Can I replicate that? Can I pass it along to other individuals? You know, we always have a quote. We have a big quote in my office here in my like our main lobby area. It's I grow, you grow, we grow together. There's growth for everybody. There's growth around for everybody,
Yeah.
right? So I think that if we can have the mindset of just being able to pass along information and duplicate, right? And you know, it's not about the title, it's not about the position itself and everything. It's about the influence, the vision that you're able to pass down to other individuals and how impactful that you can make individuals. Because at their core, right, an entrepreneur is a problem solver. So someone who sees an opportunity where others see obstacles and has the resilience to keep pushing even when it's hard, right? So
Absolutely.
I think that's kind of what makes a really strong leader, a really strong entrepreneur just in general.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What are some of your top sales tips for the team out there now? Top two, top three sales tips.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I think number one is just master the basics. We have four foundations here, right? So obviously it's like you know, there's the five steps of controlling a conversation, it's the law of averages, it's the impulse factors, and the habits of success, right? So if you can just master the basics of what we teach,
Mm.
that's how you become exceptional, right? Because that's the whole point that why we have a system in place or why we have foundations in place. Because again, it's replicable, right? You're able to duplicate those systems and everything, or you're able to duplicate those standards and everything. So I think just really learn the basics. Don't chase any fancy tricks and everything, right? Because fancy tricks leads to shortcuts, and you can't shortcut the shortcut, right?
Love that.
And then two, I think it's just all about urgency, right? But explaining what urgency is really important because I think people think that urgency, when it comes to the field, when it comes to sales and everything, it's talking really fast, right? And
Yeah.
urgency is not talking super fast. It's just being able to effectively move the conversation along with no dead airspace. Because the more dead airspace that you leave in the conversation, the more that gives people time to think and the impulse will drop, right? So if you go to like any luxury item store and everything, right? If you go to any type of like Louis Vuitton, you go to Dior, you go to any of these companies and everything, right? The sales teams there, they're actually trained to kind of almost in a way rush you, if that makes sense. It's that sense of urgency where, you know, they have other customers to get to. They have, oh, they have to run to the back really quick. Okay, like this is flying off the shelves and everything. Well, you gotta buy it now. That's the level of urgency that people need when it comes to the field and everything. It's just being able to move the pitch along and leaving like cutting out all the dead airspace and giving them time to think and everything. So I
Love
think
it.
that's kind of the just having that sense of urgency.
Yeah.
And then I think the last thing when it comes to, especially what I was doing really well in the field was it's the follow-up, right? The follow-up to a sale is just super, super important. What comes after the sale is really what makes the sale. You know, most people in sales, they stop too soon. But fortune is the follow-up. Where you make the money is the follow-up process behind it. Especially on the campaign that we're on right now on Spectrum. Obviously, like, you know, we get paid on installation, right? So if we're not following up with customers, if we're not making sure that they're happy with their service, that it's plugged in, they're actually using it, then Spectrum doesn't make any money, but so our client doesn't make any money, and neither do we, right? So the follow up is super important. So how we teach the office and everything to, you know, call the customer to follow up to them, build a rapport with them constantly, and actually build a CPR and just be there for them. Because the reason we tell them that we're there as a personal account manager, that we're there for whatever they need. They don't need to wait on the hour long customer service line and everything to get a hold of somebody, right?
Yeah.
So I think the follow up is super, super important. And that's like the top thing. If you want to genuinely make money, it's the follow up, right? Because even in like I talk about luxury item stores and everything, right? Like at Louis Vuitton, if you have a sales rep that you go to, if you buy something from them, they end up texting you later down the line and they'll be like, hey, like, hope you're enjoying that tie that you bought and everything, right? If you need anything further, please let me know. We have some new stuff coming in. And then that follow up then can also not only lead to obviously you got something installed or you got something, you know, they built a good rapport with you, but now you could lead to more referrals, more sales, more rapport with other people and vice versa. So I think that follow up is super important in sales.
I love that. I love that.
Mhm.
Um, you know, what are some of your highlights maybe over the last 3 years, you know, since you started your career here, like personally, what are some of the things that, you know, you can look at them and they're like pinch moments, magical moments?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I think one of the ones that really stands out was obviously promoting him at my first outside deal, like being able to see him open up. He moved out to Cleveland and everything, and being able to replicate the myself and everything and see him start to be successful in his own business and things like that. It's super exciting, because it's one thing to do well for yourself, but it's another thing to have your hand in the success of others. I think that's really, really exciting. So just being able to see him get promoted and actually open up an office and everything, and seeing him run his own business really successfully as well. And then also just the future of our other future owners and everything within the organization. I think that's really exciting. And just talking about where they're going to go, where they're going to expand to, where they're going to open.
Yeah.
I think another thing is just being able to, you know, eh, being able to see the journey that I've had, right? I think is a big highlight for me because when I started off, I think a lot of people when they start off running an office, running a business, they have a really great year and then maybe even fall off or continue to have those great years afterwards. For me, it was a really rough start. So I feel like I started in rock bottom as a manager and everything and as an owner.
Yeah.
And seeing myself like even just like a year and a half ago, not be where I am, not being where like not seeing where my team is and everything, to go from we were doing maybe generating about 10, maybe even less than a little less than 10K wires a week to then generating around $60,000 every single week, right? So to be able to see that journey and to see how much I've even just grown as an individual and as a leader and as an entrepreneur, I think is really exciting. And then the last thing would probably just be just being able to give back to my parents and everything because like I told you, my parents gave me everything growing up. I was very privileged to grow up in a really wealthy household and everything, and in a family that they would basically give me everything that I wanted monetarily and everything. Just being able to give back to my parents, my mom's a big designer person like me, so I was able to buy her a couple Chanel bags and everything. That's her favorite brand ever. Being able to send my mom and my dad on trips. I've sent them to Italy. I'm actually going back to Italy with my mom pretty soon. I sent them to Paris last year and everything. So just being able to send my parents on the trips that they deserve because they did such a great job raising me, in my opinion. So just being able to give back to them and everything, that's really like a big highlight in the last 3 years.
That's awesome. Like the hard work and the hard dedication is
Yeah,
reaping benefits now.
exactly.
Um, and what's your goals? I'm thinking like 2026, 2030. Like what's the goal by the end of next year and then maybe even like 4 or 5 years from now?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that by the end of this year and everything, it's just to continue to grow the organization. My goal is by the end of this year to have 2 to 3 more high performing offices under my organization. So like right now we have one office open. We're looking to kind of open up 2 more, and then by the end of this year, get
Yeah.
them to be high performing, get them to be exactly like me, and if not more, right? That's kind of what we're looking at towards the end of 2025. By the end of 2026, obviously continue that pipeline and everything, kind of promoting out people, getting people into management, running their own deals, running their own offices. But in reality, too, Matt, like my biggest goal is by the end of 2026 is to be, if not already qualified or on push to be in a regional consultant kind of position and everything, right? So that's kind of where we're generating a big enough revenue weekly to kind of hit that wire criteria and everything. So that's kind of what I'm looking at by the end of 2026. And then in 2030, I mean, it's just continuing the growth. Like I don't know, like I'm just a person that loves not just working. I like I'm like I just love seeing others successful. I love impacting others. So I think hopefully by 2030, I'm more of the in that consultancy kind of consultancy position where I am just traveling and impacting other individuals, impacting other offices, impacting other entrepreneurs, and kind of being able to grow the next generation of entrepreneurs as well, while also having like a lot of other offices under my belt and everything, and being able to kind of move from campaign to campaign as well. Because I love the client that we're working with right now, but would love to experience other things as well. So that's kind of by 2030 that I want to be at, is like in more of a consultancy kind of position where I'm just impacting others, but also being able to live the lifestyle that I want. I'm a big traveler. I enjoy traveling. I
Yeah.
would love my goal by the end of my life is to travel to every single country, like and I mean every single country. Like I would love to just even step foot like in some of the countries that maybe people don't even think of to go to and everything. But I'm a big traveler. I'm a big person that loves to just experience things. I'm a big risk taker in a sense of like if I can jump out of a plane, I would, right? I love
I've done
skydiving.
it. I've
I love
done it.
things
I
like
don't
that.
recommend it. It was not my
Really?
cup of tea.
I love it.
I didn't enjoy it.
I think it's so much fun.
Yeah, the person I was with, they loved it. They were like, "Woo, let's go again!" I was like,
Yeah.
never again, never again. But
Yeah.
what?
Mhm.
So you should definitely go to the gala. We got the gala coming up in London. You gonna head there at the end of the year?
I'm I'm hoping to. Yeah, that's kind of the goal.
That'll be fun. Have you ever
Yeah.
been to England?
I have been to England, yeah, and I never been there for a gala. I went there for Christmas one year with my family.
The gala's a blast. I would definitely
Yeah,
recommend. Robby, I
definitely.
really
Yeah,
appreciate your time today. I know you're a busy
absolutely.
guy and you got a lot you want to get up to. Thanks for
Thank you.
jumping on with us, and I look forward to seeing us release the video.
Absolutely. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate you.